I see dead people.
Hot shit.
Here's Johnny.
Stop.
We have such sights to show you.
Bring the motherfucking ruckus. Fuck you too.
Okay.
Where am I?
I mean, the technical answer to that is California.
I was just gonna say, coming at you live from California. We're in a Los Angeles hotel room, more specifically a Marina del Rey hotel room. The night before leaving California.
Flying out in the morning.
Yeah.
Get to 3 hours of our day disappears tomorrow.
Yeah. It has been a whirlwind of a trip.
Mm-hmm.
I wanna lead by saying I think this is just gonna be a talkie. I don't think we're gonna read anything this episode. So people who
I'm
want
too stoned to know how to read.
I just don't want to right now. Frankly, I just don't want to. There's too much I want to talk about.
Yeah.
That I feel like for people who just want to hear about how Horror Nights 2023 went in Hollywood this year, this is going to be that episode. Because on Sunday, this previous week in September, WhereAmI and myself attended Horror Nights here in California, here in Hollywood. And we're just going to talk about it. I think this is fine because I did this same thing with my brothers in 2019, and that episode is like, I feel like 70 or 100 something. It's like their first, second, or third episode. It's somewhere in there where we talk about Horror Nights in 2019, and we kind of do a comparison countdown, some type of critique, discussion, formulaic.
Going over
the night of what it was to experience Horror Nights, and the feelings and the sensations and the things we saw and how we kind of think about them. I'm also going to say that I don't, with that being said, I do plan on doing an episode like this later with Alley Cat after we experience the Horror Nights this year in Florida, in Orlando. So if you like this episode, there's kind of going to be a part 2 at some point later this year as well, because I am seeing both coasts this year, and there are going to be differences between the two, but also Alley Cat is someone I've gone to 2 previous years of Horror Nights with, and I'm excited to see what she thinks of this year in comparison. But
this was the first successful time we went, because 2020 we tried to go, and it did not happen. That would have it didn't dampen that trip at all for me, because as you guys can see, the nights that we didn't go out were nights that we recorded, because we recorded twice when we were down there. That's the Big Boys. That was a great trip.
That was the Big Boys episodes where we read Disney stories. That's a 2-parter somewhere in the, I want to say, late hundreds or early 200s. I forget where it lands. It's been a hell of a fucking week.
Yeah.
I'm of course starting this episode with Where Am I?
Because
this is his first time attending a Horror Nights, so that's the perspective
successfully
we're gonna come from right now, because Alley Cat will have experienced a couple to talk about, but for someone who's new, who hasn't done it before, that's an interesting perspective, don't you think? I feel like it's fun to talk about.
Yeah.
Because there are people out there who want to experience it, but don't, because either they're not aware of it, or don't know enough about it or it's too expensive,
Sure.
well, let me just say, we're gonna explain a couple things, but we're also gonna talk about it. So, I don't personally think it's too expensive. I think I got our Horror Nights Plus Express pass for under $200.
Yeah.
I believe. And it was for a Sunday night, and it was busy. It was definitely busy. But I don't think it was that tough. I feel like anyone who's never experienced it before can go right to fucking California and be perfectly fine.
Yeah.
I would actually say I think Florida's is a little bit harder to just kind of jump into.
Yeah, Florida's is a lot more touristy.
There's just a lot more going on.
LA,
in general.
you can kind
of... the size of Orlando's park compared to Hollywood's is like 2 times the square footage. And it's
massive difference.
And it's just, you have a one-way direction with Hollywood. And you have a circle, you have a circular... you have a couple spokes, but you have a mostly circular... land layout in Orlando, so you kind of just do the whole wheel, as the night goes on. With California, it's a one-way trip down, one-way trip back up, and what we found is, well, really not really paying attention. We kind of, bumbled our way through the night and got everything done. There are 8 houses and a tram tour.
Mm-hmm.
We did the tram tour first.
Oh, and it was the correct decision.
For easing your first toes into the water there, you know, why would you say the tram is the easiest thing to start with?
So obviously you have like the cut scene where you're just sitting on the tram, and that sort of gets the juices flowing almost. You're not thrown directly into it. And then even as you go through, like because it's extermination, like the bug part of it isn't as intense until you get farther through it, and it scales up very quickly and starts off very easily and step till you're all the way through.
I totally agree.
A lot of the other ones just sort of started at a pace and kept that pace the whole time. So that's why I think it was the best one in terms of just like going from 0 to scared, where you want to be.
Yeah. Talking about the theme, the bugs. Mm-hmm. Something was to be desired there for me. I think a little bit. I just wanted more.
Yeah, there were...
It felt like there weren't just a lot of people in the beginning of the night for me. And for tram, you have these open spaces where tons of people are walking through and tons of people are being funneled in a very singular direction. And you have like one person to every like 60 who just kind of cuts through the crowd real quick. And then you have a couple stationed across from each other. It needed something else for me. And then of course you get to Jupiter's Claim where I feel like it took off.
Really, that's kind of where it was at its best. Oh, those are the sounds of a big boy getting readjusted.
This is kind of like a Big Boys Make Big Noise episode because we did both of those things.
Yeah.
We are both big boys, and we definitely made big noise.
Oh, yeah.
Multiple different places, multiple different times.
We took a lot of pictures today.
A lot of videos, a lot of pictures, a lot of fun stuff. I got a lot of Horror Nights on video. A lot more than I think I've ever done on purpose.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a little video out of it, and I'm gonna make little things out of it. But that, that's my personal life. But I got to record it, and I was going over the footage today, and I got to the Terror Tram, and I went all the way to the end, and I was like, well, yeah, obviously that's what I'm able to record the most of, because they're not policing that shit. They don't care if you record you walking around. They care when you're in a house and they're actors swinging arms and getting in your face and shit. And, and I'm sure it's a liability thing, but also a management thing.
Don't show off our tricks until the end.
But that's the thing. Media night is literally the first night at any of the parks, and those videos come out within 24 hours.
That's fair.
I know because I watch them. I love to watch them. They're fantastic. People do wonderful jobs because the actors are just on point that first weekend. Which is, getting back to the conversation. I think Terror Tram just needed more people. It needed more people because...
That's fair.
You have wide open spaces equals we need more. We need, and their scare zones were the same thing. They weren't even really scare zones. They were 5 people meandering through a 300 person crowd. It's not enough. And that's, getting back down to it.
Sure. Well, there were also more people.
California's problem. It's a lot of people, small space. I would say you have just as many fucking people in Orlando.
But you
have a wide space.
Yeah.
So lots of circulation. Very easy to get around, in my opinion. This year's going to be nuts, though, because I think the properties this year were fucking nuts. I think the higher the level of interest in the IP, the more people we're going to get into the parks. So Terror Tram is something really cool to start with, because it's not IP related. We're just kind of stretching our legs. We're dipping our toe in the water.
Yeah.
We're feeling it out. I'm glad you really liked it. He went and bought a fucking t-shirt of it.
I did.
And I smiled so wide when I saw it because I was like, this boy got it. He got the fucking merch.
Yeah, some girl at Hot Topic stopped me and talked to me about Terror Tram for a good 20, 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I was like, sweet.
Yeah. How much money did I spend on merch this week? Probably close to $500.
That's fair.
Which is fine, because a third of that is for other people that actually paid me to get them things. And then, half of that is gift. So, gift, yeah. There's at least 2 gifts in there. So, anyway. This year's fucking IP lineup.
Yeah.
Man. Where are we starting? Do you just want me to go from the top?
So I was going to start... I have a list here on my phone.
Do you want to recall it how we did the night?
I wanted to go over bests and worsts.
Can we do that at the end?
Okay.
I think we should go through the night first. Literally count it down how we experienced it. Because the first thing we did was Stranger Things, which I think is perfectly fine to start a talk with. With getting off of Terror Tram, we're in the middle of the park, literally the dead middle, because you're not in the upper lot anymore. You're right before the lower lot.
Yeah.
This is your transfer point. And we, of course, chose to go down because you have to move in that linear direction and go down. And we got to the bottom lot, and I had asked WhereAmI what he was most excited about, house-wise. And his initial answer was Stranger Things.
Yeah. Which I thought was my number one. And still kind of look at. And of the IPs, that's the one that I'm into.
It was fine.
Yeah.
It was fine. I got to do the one in 2019, which was season 2 with 2 scenes of season 3. Wasn't great. This one also, part of me was just why aren't there more people here? We missed the beginning scare actors of that house. We legit did not get the first 5 scare actors in that house. Eddie didn't come out in the floating scene. Eddie was not in the woods.
That was the one that it was
Dustin
too slow.
was not in the woods. Yes, no, the conga line.
Somebody in front of us just screwed up.
The internet calls the process of going through a Horror Nights house the conga line, and it's because
you are either right within 3 feet of the scare, or you are 5 feet in front of it or 5 feet behind it, and you are just watching it happen or hearing it happen behind you. And the sad thing about Stranger Things, personally, is that we just went to rooms where nothing was happening. Like, I even lingered, and I, like, watched to see if something would happen. And the actor would, like, legit face away and, like, hard reset. Like, they would wait for 10 people to walk by before doing their action, doing their fucking pedal again. And it's like, the beginning of that house was just no one. Except cool scenes and maybe, like, one non-specific character. And then you'd go another 3 or 4 scenes with no one in it. And then it's another non-specific character that comes out of a doorway. Because it was Matt Modine's character at one point, and then there was a Steve who almost smacked me in the face. He came out of that fucking door hard.
Yeah.
And he was in my fucking face. But that's fine. You know, here's what I want to say. Stranger Things Season 4 is probably the best season since the first one. Mm-hmm. The first one is still the best season. It just is. Narratively, you have to accept that. 2 and 3 are perfectly fine. They're good TV. I'm not going to shit on them. But there's something about 4 that's just like, it's like a Nightmare on Elm Street TV show. And it has
the correct spice of life.
It's Wes Craven and Stephen King. That I don't have to explain that. Anyone who's watched anything Wes Craven has done and read anything or seen anything Stephen King has done, it is literally both of those writers combined into a narrative. That is what Stranger Things is. And the 4th season, we get our own Freddy Krueger in the form of Vecna, who's going around killing teens in their dreams and shit. You know, it's just literally textbook fucking Freddy. And we got our Stephen King crew of kids with weird connections to things and superpowers and shit coming into the fold and doing shit. You know, all I'm trying to say is season 4 is good.
Yeah.
So looking forward to this house, you're kind of saying, I want to be Max. I want to be going through the house feeling like Vecna is chasing me. Mm-hmm. I want it to be or the multiple characters throughout this series dealing with those moments of getting haunted by Vecna. It's how I would do an It house. Yeah. It's how I would do an It house. I would want to see the scenes where Pennywise is terrorizing the kids. I don't just want a random scene where Pennywise pretended to be a fucking librarian. I don't need that to be in the house. I want him with the sewer, with the balloons, and I want to see the shit. And for that, mostly, this house delivered. We had like 3 or 4 Vecnas. Mm-hmm. They all popped out. They were they were really good at doing that. But it wasn't till the latter end of the house. Yeah. That was your first, I think, like, real scare. Mm. I mean, you said your heart rate was the highest for Terror Jam, and I think that's just
I kept track of.
I think we were abusing substances. Possibly,
allegedly,
a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, what else they're legal here.
Yeah,
they're legal
also
here.
True.
So we did that.
What happens in Cali stays in Cali.
Right.
They're also legal for both of us back home.
Yeah, but for different reasons.
Yeah.
And now it's like, our heart rates are high. We have a lot of expectations. We're coming into this event. We're very excited.
And you're hitting the ground running.
We get on a ride, and then the first thing they do is hit you with 5 dudes with chainsaws. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just, yeah, of course. And then you walk through that Us scene in Jupiter's Claim, and the people are just coming out of nowhere. You're right. Heart rate is very high. But the first time you got fucking, like, jumped,
like, screamed?
Is when you were looking at that sign, thinking it was a sign, and it rips sideways so an actor can come out at you. and Vecna was an inch from your fucking face, and I was right behind you to see it, and I laughed my ass off. Because that's what happened. We kind of swapped as the night went on.
Yeah.
I would say, I'm going first, you're going first, I'm going first, you're going first. And I always found that WhereAmI walks through these houses with reckless fucking abandon. He's like...
I walk everywhere with reckless abandon.
That's true. But he walks through these houses basically like, you're either going to get me or you're not. So I'm leaving that decision up to you, and I'm just rolling the dice. And he swings his arms, you know, he's lackadaisically just kind of leaning through these rooms. And I think I walk through them much like a child on Christmas Day. Mm-hmm. I walk into the room and
timid,
I look,
but excited.
I look for details.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm very timid. I'm very I'm looking at the. I walk into the room and it's like someone's bedroom with like lots of things on their desks and lots of things on their bookshelves, and I'm like looking at the bookshelves, and like 5 feet behind me, like a fucking scare actor comes running out of the door, and I'm not even looking in that direction because I'm like reading the thing on the desk in the room. Mm-hmm.
That got me a few times where like an actor would jump out at me, and I'd be looking at something else, and you go, oh, and I go, oh, and then they'd be like right there, but they already jump scared me, but I was like, oh!
Delay. Mm-hmm. There was a delay sometimes.
Yeah.
Where I would...
That may have been the substances.
I would point things out to you because they would be standing specifically right next to you, and you wouldn't realize it. Like, what was it? The first time the big crow walker guy came running in.
Yeah, and
I was just pointing, and you weren't paying attention, and then he literally got in your
in
fucking
my
face. He literally, they had these stilt walkers going around the midsection of the park on the upper lot.
Beady red eyes.
And yeah, they were giant crows. So it was really funny to see these giant crows kind of squawking and leaning down and pecking at people and shit. I mean, obviously not making physical contact, but they would get within a foot of your fucking face and snap at you, and it was just really fucking funny to see that happen to WhereAmI, I think like twice.
Oh yeah, for
he
sure.
He followed you, actually. I think there was a point where I was like, he likes crows, he likes them, follow him. And then he literally just listened and he just followed you. That wasn't the only scare actor that did that either.
I was really good at making sure that like I could get people to follow me if I wanted to.
They were absolutely going to get in your face. Mm-hmm. But
yeah, but you can make it look like you're not paying attention, and then make it look like you're avoiding them, and they immediately beeline towards you.
Beeline to you.
Like it's easy to read the system.
They pass you on purpose and then
and follow right behind you.
And circle back, and then I was gonna say the only time where that truly happened to me was at the end of the night, and we were going back to do 2 houses that we missed in the back of the park, and we had to cut through Hogsmeade to where they have the fucking the Death Eaters from Harry Potter stationed up in a fucking alleyway. There was this point when the actors were resetting, so there were already 5 people in the alleyway, and then all at once this bursting green mist comes running down this dark alleyway, and like 6 more come walking down
it was just
bang, toward us.
Bang, bang, bang.
And we could not have picked a better time to walk through there. By the time we got to the end where they were resetting already, people were leaving with us going in the same direction. So at one point, when 2 actors in the hallway were resetting, they just fucking followed me. Both of them were within a foot of my fucking face, pointing wands at my cheeks and fucking threatening me under their voice, under their breaths, saying, whispering curses and shit. And I recorded the entire thing. I can't wait to see what I say when I go back over the footage, because I swear I'm just saying, oh, yeah, someone called the Dark Mark, called you guys down here, huh? Yeah, no, that's great, that's cool. I'm just going to walk. Either do it or don't.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
At one point I was just like, now you're just giving me blue balls, just put me out of my fucking misery. And they literally waved me off and walked away the minute I said that. And I was like, yeah, that's right. It was so fucking funny, though. Yeah, let's keep going. What are your feelings on Stranger Things house?
I think I think it had the best in terms of like
You said
special effects, narrative. Yeah, basically.
Narrative when we went on it.
You know, there was a very clear storyline where some of them had like a storyline, but it wasn't like defined.
Not many of them. Not many of them. The IPs mostly did.
I do still think that it was, and it's tough. You know, like I think it was one of my favorite parts of the night, mostly because we were still getting the ball rolling, and it was that uphill swing where it was very momentum based. You know,
it's your first house.
Yeah,
it's your first house. You're gonna like it. I just think you're gonna like it.
Yeah, it was it was a great experience to get everything all started, and
it looked great.
It could have been the best or the worst, and it still would have been phenomenal.
I do want to say there were some latter in the night where we got a lot of black tunnels and black curves between rooms where they would scare you instead of the rooms themselves, and that got tiring as the night went on. Just seeing them say, "I'm gonna put someone in a
black corner,"
while you transition from setting to setting because we can. And that's just kind of sad because a lot of the earlier scares in the nights were coming from rooms where you would walk into and they'd already be there and you just wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Which I think leads me to the next house we did, which was Last of Us.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my fucking fuck. This was my house of the night.
That's fair.
If we were doing a segment, and we probably still will revisit it at the end, where we talk about tops, I'm saying right now, Last of Us was my favorite. I said it when we were in line. I said it when we got off of it. You know, when we got out of the other side, I just said they captured scenes from the game so fucking well, and then at the same time put you in the reaction space of going through what they go through in the game, legit down to scenes.
Yeah.
From the game. There was a point where I walked by a graded alleyway, and they legitimate had the facade of the attack truck with the giant fucking machine gun on the back. Like, it literally drives after you in one specific scene, in one hallway. You go down into the sewers. You do the whole sewer scene with Ish and the kids who live down there. You get the bloater kill where he snaps a dude's face open. You know, that's a really popular kill from the game. Seeing Joel get his fucking head split by a bloater if you ever let it get a hold of you. What I meant was we would turn a corner and be in a room with clickers. But some of them were like fake and stuck to the wall.
Yeah, and like
and
dead-ish.
Some of them were just pretending to be fake and stuck
dead,
to the wall. So you would get within a foot of them and be like just right about to pass them, and they'd trigger and they'd fly off the wall and fucking scare you. And they did that like 3 fucking times. You'd walk into a room, see them, but not be sure if they're gonna move on you. And that was really fucking cool.
Yeah.
That's basically a mirror or clone room, which we see later in the night. In the Holidays in Hell house, they had a clone room. That hallway of pumpkin heads, it's the same effect.
Yeah.
Just multiplied. You have a room where 9 of them are dummies, but 3 of them are scare actors, and they just jump out at you.
Boom, boom, boom.
You know.
Yeah.
Every good house, I think, does that. So, you know, the one that stands out to me is the Weekend house from last year. You cross through the mirror hallway, and there are multiple bandaged-faced people standing there, and they you're not sure which one is going to jump out at you. Fucking Last of Us, man. Where do you put Last of Us? What are your thoughts on Last of Us?
It was right in the middle for me. It was what I expected, and I'm not as tied to the storyline. Like, I watched the show, my roommate's really into it, and he and I tried to play the game together, and that went for about 2 hours of playtime and never went anywhere else, and I've just never delved deep into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No.
Very casual experience with it.
Well, and it was the period of my life where I realized I was getting away from video games. Is when that came out.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
That was my phase of life.
Like 4th or 5th generation of video games in our lives. Yeah, no, that's fine. I had never owned a PS3. I literally got a PS4 from you. Mm-hmm. Like, I had never owned the PS3. I had played The Last of Us 4 times without even owning a PS3. I played it twice when I stayed at my uncle's place in Jersey City, and I played it twice with Michael, and neither of them, all 4 of those experiences, is what I mean to say, were highly memorable. Mm-hmm. Highly memorable. I feel like, and I just had to, I have to advertise it on the YouTube later at some point, like this year, early next year, there will be a playthrough of me and Frowns doing Last of Us that is going to be coming out on the YouTube at some point. So if you've never played and you want to watch people play through it and talk about it, because we both have a very good history with the material and we talk about the show at the same time as we bumble through the game together, I'm playing, Frowns is just there for the journey. I don't think we ever switched off at all or anything. But if you want to see me and Frowns get through Last of Us, that will be on the YouTube channel at some point. I was even kind of thinking of that, like, as I was going through the house, I was like, when was my last playthrough of the game? Oh, yeah, it was with Frowns a couple months ago. Mm-hmm. And I was like, still haven't played the second one.
Yeah?
Still gotta get on that. I have it. It's been sitting shrink-wrapped in my room for, I think, 2 years. Because I bought a PS5. Mm-hmm. And don't play it enough.
I think you bought that right after the Big Boys trip because I was talking about mine. No, because I didn't have one then. I remember you and I had a conversation.
I bought mine for Hogwarts Legacy.
Yeah.
And then I immediately...
Oh, that's what it was.
And then I immediately beat it.
Yeah.
So then I just put it down. After I beat Hogwarts Legacy, I was like, I don't need a PS5 anymore. Mm-hmm. That's not true. I played God of War. It was fantastic. No, so... Last of Us was cool. It was a cool house. It was a cool... Like, we got the 2 big IPs done, like, immediately. Yeah. We got Stranger Things and we got Last of Us done. And they had, like, the longest waits of the night. Mm-hmm. But still, a lot of these houses hit triple digits. People, you have to do the Express Pass. It was a quarter of the wait most of the time. Yeah. There were times where we walked right onto the fucking house. It was great. It was phenomenal. Things are not that way in Florida. Yeah. You are looking at, like, half. So if it's 100 minutes, you're looking at an hour-long wait. It's how it is. Mm-hmm. You're looking at half. In California, you're looking at, like, a quarter. That's another reason why I say beginners go to California. Mm-hmm. If you want the smoother experience, go to California. If you can afford it, go to California. I'm glad you did California first, because now I'd say if you liked that, go to Florida. And that's just, future thinking. Sure. I always do a weekend with or without Alley Cat. Mm-hmm. Every year. I make Horror Nights a priority. It is something I do every year. I fucking love it. Mm-hmm. I fucking love it.
It's the thing.
Which house did we do third? Well, technically, I think we rode Mummy. No, we didn't ride Mummy that night.
We only rode one ride. We rode it first. And once we got off that ride, the sun was down. And we didn't ride anything else after that.
We did Harry Potter at the beginning of the night.
Yeah.
We did Exorcist next.
No.
Didn't we? Yeah, we did Exorcist.
Did we?
Yeah. Because think about the 4 that were down there. Mm-hmm. It was Exorcist and then Holidays in Hell. That was 3 and 4.
I thought it was Latin America.
No, Latin America was back in Upper Lot.
Okay.
Latin America and Evil Dead.
Okay, so
we're after each other.
Exorcist and then...
It was Exorcist and then Holidays in Hell. I told a cashier later that night when we were buying merch, had asked, what house do you think was the scariest?
Okay.
And I said Exorcist.
Okay.
And when she asked why, I said, because I haven't seen it yet, therefore it has the same level of control over me that an original house does, because I don't know what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those kind of fantasy illusions where this might be really on key with the movie, but it also might be conceptual in a lot of ways. Let me just say this, right? The thing that anyone's going to say when they go through that house, the one in California more specifically, what the fuck is up with this fucking, like, three-horned, three-eyed white demon?
Just
this
constantly...
thing, there was this... And I mean, when we got to the end of that one, they tossed 4 of them at us.
Just
in a row.
Yeah.
In a row. 4 of them. Mm-hmm. And that's even saying there were 3 more before we got to that point.
Yeah.
Maybe even 4 or 5 more. The more I think about this house, the more I'm like, they used the girls twice. Mm-hmm. And then they used this white demon
and they did a
or
beginning half and
times.
an end half.
Right.
And the girl was the beginning half, and it wasn't quite as,
no, the possessed girl still came out every once in a while.
But it was more transitioning into the horror, and when the guy shows up, then you're fully immersed. So...
They treated it like the possession narration, the plot of how the movie is most likely going to go. But at the same time, I'm like, if I go see this fucking movie... and there's not, like, some huge white demon that pops out and scares me every once in a while, I'm going to be disappointed now. Because that thing was fucking
horrifying.
Cool.
Yeah.
You say horrifying, I say fucking cool.
Yeah.
And both of those are true. Mm-hmm. It was horrifyingly fucking cool. I am going to go see that movie now. You did convince me with that house. I need to see it now to understand what's going on there. But I will say... It's gonna be a slow burn fucking movie where that white demon is gonna show up at the fucking end. And if it doesn't look nearly as good as what I saw at Horror Nights, I'm gonna ask, what the fuck are you guys doing? Because the special effects of those things looked great. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of the suits throughout the night impressed me very much. Even the clickers and the bloaters were kinda off. But I would say the white demons in the Exorcist house and even the little girls in the Exorcist house were on fucking point. I would say the Evil Dead ones were also on point. Mm-hmm. Those were the 2 special effects houses where I'd say these were the best. Because the Vecnas looked rubbery to me.
They were just big.
The clickers looked very disjointed, like... I'm wearing a fake head, but the rest of me is real. Mm-hmm. And that kind of bothered me because you could distinctively tell what part of it was fake. Which is tough because you expect movie quality from these $1 million houses, and then you have to remember it's a haunted house.
Yeah, like, they still have to move around quite a bit.
Oh, the budget just has to be reasonable.
Yeah, that's
they're throwing a third of that into costumes. Mm-hmm. Because a third of it is special effects, and a third of it is actual set.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's like... Exorcist was the next one to do, because I said, I think this one's going to scare me the most. Mm-hmm. People have said the Exorcist house was tough. When, so I turned to WhereAmI as we're in line, and I'm just kind of like... People have said this one's tough. Do you think it was tough? What do you associate your feelings with?
No, I don't. I don't think it was. It certainly wasn't the scariest.
Okay.
To me, anyway.
Which house do you think was the scariest?
I still say the tram.
Interesting.
Like that one. That one still just has me.
Interesting. That's cool.
I know my answer is different. Because I made a list before and I just lumped them all together, And after I realized I need to do IP and non-IP, like it needs to be 2 different lists. And Exorcist was the one that I knew where it was, and it ended where it was supposed to.
That's fair.
You know?
I definitely think Exorcist was the scariest of the night for me.
It's fair.
And I think it's literally just because of what I said. Like, the scenes they made you walk through, and like, I'm gonna be the one to talk about it. The smells.
Yeah.
The smells in the house can be used against you, and like, I'll talk about it in Alley Cats episode 2. Like, when I went through the Texas Chainsaw Massacre house, I want to say 2 years ago, they made the entire thing smell like barbecue. It was very troublesome.
Yeah.
Because of the things that you would be looking at.
Yeah.
That then smelled like mesquite barbecue. Very tough. I would say Exorcist House did 2 things that I was not a fan of, but appreciated their commitment to. The first was a kind of barn shit smell.
The dirt.
But it was more than dirt. There was definitely some like fresh manure smell in there. And it was where the kids were like hiding. Apparently that's the plot. They're found in like a farmhouse having eaten like a rabbit or some shit. Yeah. And sorry, spoilers. I haven't seen the movie. I'm just telling you what the house had. But then later, when you got into the girls' room where they're being exercised, you get a wonderful fake vomit smell, and it has this kind of bile-ish ick.
Like a very acidy.
Yeah, very acidy ick smell that gets to the back of your throat. I didn't like that.
And the back of my throat was already scratchy.
Right, we were already cotton mouth, so it's just like I like it and I don't like it. I like it because their level of commitment is crazy. Like, you walk into a room near the end of that house and there's a literal girl, like, stuck to the ceiling with just propelling vomit out of her mouth.
It does what it's supposed to do. But
100%.
You know, what it's supposed to do is that, you know, that's the one I...
Yeah, that's where you go. No, it's fine. And it goes on. You know, there are other houses we're going to talk about the smells, too. Any other thoughts with Exorcist?
No. After that was
Holidays. In Hell. Holidays in Hell is fun for me, and I said it when we were in line too. Holidays in Hell is fun for me because it was the first house I ever did at Horror Nights. Back in 2019, I went with my brothers. We talk about it in that episode that I previously mentioned. It was the first house I did, and it was the first thing we did that night. We did the opposite of what we did this time, which was we started at the top and worked our way to the bottom and then turned around and maybe hit 1 or 2 more things on our way back. Where we had to like backtrack. But that's fine. We still did everything. And that's all that matters. Holidays in Hell was literally right next to Exorcist. And that was cool because Stranger Things and Last of Us were across the hall from each other, but Exorcist and Holidays in Hell were down the lot from the bottom.
Yeah, so and they were set up, you got out of Exorcist and you were in the line for it.
Yeah, they're really good about that. Yeah. They do that in Florida too. Like, you get out of one line and it just propels you to the next one. Yeah, that it's a beautiful thing, Holidays in Hell. I know I have a rose-tinted shades thing, nostalgia-wise, for this house. I don't think it's a great house. Let me just start by saying I don't think it's... Let me just start by saying I don't think it's a great house. I just like it. And this was another one where it was early enough in the night, it was still like 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
That there weren't many scare actors in this house. We walked by entire scenes where people would be missing from a table. You know, I walked into a scene where a dude was stabbing no one on a table, but there was a fake body there. And I was like, there's someone supposed to be there, and they just totally fucked this up. It's kind of sad, actually. But it didn't
it made me say this is funny because I experienced this already, and it's pretty much the same fucking thing I remember.
Yeah.
And that's fine, because I wasn't super impressed by it the first time I went through it in 2019. I really wasn't.
Yeah.
I was like, that was the first fucking house. I think I laughed more because my brother kept getting hit by all the scares, Bum, more specifically. And I think, like, we got out of that one, and there was, like, a Santa with a fucking chainsaw just fucking chasing him. And then some stilt walker almost, like, smacked him in the face. Like, It was just, like, we just got ambushed by things in that house. Yeah, I remember getting ambushed by a fucking leprechaun in that house, like, just out of nowhere. And I just don't think that happened this time.
No, I got ambushed by a leprechaun.
I remember seeing it, but it wasn't. It was kind of like intense. He was standing there and just kind of jutted himself out at you really quickly.
Yeah.
There was nothing like a complete scare like the Vecna one where you got close and it was a false wall. Boom. I thought that would happen more, frankly, because those are the ones that I was expecting throughout the entire night. I was like staying away from posters and walls and stuff. I was like, any of these could be fake. Some dude can just split right through it. I've been to enough of these to understand that that's a tactic that they use. Mm-hmm. Holidays in Hell. It's not great. What are your feelings on Holidays in Hell?
Yeah, where did I have it to begin with? I had it really low on the list already. So this one's not one I'm excited for, and then it not being exciting was on
par.
Point. It was par.
It was par of the course at that point, so that's fine. Not all of them are going to be home runs, and that's another thing.
And sometimes you need the ones that are mediocre to make the really good ones really good.
100%. I think the ebb and flow of the night is deciding what type of person you are. And sometimes it's also just in the game. It's in the heart of the cards. Sometimes the scare actors just aren't there, and it impacts your entire fucking viewing of the house. Whereas someone an hour from then goes through it and has all the actors and gets hit with all of them, and it's fucking amazing for them. That's fine. I don't think there's a single house I could think of that was like perfect as the night went on, but if I were to say I was there for most of them, I'd say Last of Us. That's the only one that I could remember being there in the fucking control seat for like every scare in that house. Mm-hmm. That's great. That's all you need to remember. Holidays in Hell, not one of those houses.
So at this point, we finished the
half of the park. Yeah,
and we went up to the upper lot, which is when is this when we realized that we missed two? No,
we went right.
Yeah.
Which led us to the little Dia de los Muertes circle roundabout in front of the Kiddie Land that was shut down. And that's when
started to kick in.
That's when we got into was it Evil Dead Rise first or Monstros?
I think it was Monstros.
I think it was Monstros.
Because I was very excited for that one.
I think that's why we went there.
Yeah. That was my
You were really looking forward to that too. Earlier in the afternoon, we were talking about it in line, and you said, yeah, that one sounds interesting, because I just don't know anything about it.
Mm-hmm. And I didn't know anything about it, and everything that happened in it was fresh. My head was, this is the cryptid house this year. Because there's like a cryptid house every year. Okay. In both sides. I want to say last year or the year before, California had like a house just full of like scarecrow people. It's just like corn people. Like it was just their cryptid that year. And then another year they had Yetis, Sasquatches. Mm. Last year in Florida, we had Chupacabra. It was cool. Yeah. It was cool. I'm not complaining. But there's like always a cryptid house. There just always is. And if it's not, it's more associated to the Universal monsters because a lot of them are cryptids. So here's the thing. I liked this house, but I didn't love it. And I think it's because
I wanted more things to pop out and scare me. Mm-hmm. And I didn't feel like I got that at all at this house. I think you got a lot of them.
Yeah, I got a lot of pops.
You got a lot of the pops, and I got a lot of the, like, sideways moments where, like, you're already in the room and something comes out behind
something
you.
Like, yeah.
Because there were two funny points. I remember enjoying this house a lot. I don't remember being scared in this house a lot. Because you literally enter and there's an actor who's not trying to scare you, just like in the room.
Yeah, just like and a lot of it was lore. Like here's the lore of
They would show you a placard of the cryptid, and then they would tell you what those cryptids would do. Mm-hmm. And like the first one is like, oh, it's a changeling. It pretends to be a woman to lure you with its noises, and then you come, and then it steals you away.
And then it made me come, and I.
And then the second one is like a child eater. You know, it's this bird person that swings down and picks up children and swallows them whole. You know, but my favorite one was this stilt walker dude with huge long legs who would steal kids and throw them in his bag of bones. And he was really funny because he's dressed like a tall farmer. Uh-huh. And he's just asking you to get in his bag of bones. Just chilling. And at one point they turn a hallway into the bag of bones that you have to enter, implying that you got captured by Mr. Guy.
You're going down.
And when I got in there, he was pulling someone's spine out of their body, and I yelled fatality, and he shook it at me. And he kind of nodded, and when I gave him a thumbs up, I think he gave me a thumbs up. Yeah. I don't know if I'm remembering that correctly, but I think it happened. Mm-hmm. And then when I tried joking with the one in the next room, acting like it was the one in the prior room, it gave me a dirty look and walked away. And I thought it was going to come back and scare me later in the house, but no, I just pissed him off and he walked away. I was joking with him. I was like, that was cool. You know, you pulled a dude's spine out. What are you doing with it? And he just like looks at me sideways and backs out of the room.
We've also had multiple characters who collected spines of various shapes and sizes.
Yeah, no, that happened.
So,
but it was funny. I think this was one where I was like laughing as I went through it, and you get to the end and it's like the gravedigger, and he's like, I've been digging a grave all day for you, and like points at you and like raises a shovel. And when he did it to me, like within an inch from my face, I went, yo, nice. I was like, it was for me? Yeah, cool, I'm ready. And yeah, I liked this was the first one where we had a big face. Sometimes they make these big models of like jump scares. It's kind of like there wasn't a big one. Okay. It's cut off. The way you know it is because it's only like the top half of the monster. So you have these two big screaming hands, and then like a bust length neck, and then the big screaming face of the child napper who has these big pale eyes and giant mummy-like mouth and tan leathery skin, wearing like a farmer's hat. WhereAmI totally didn't see it coming. I had been through a house with this before, so I laughed when I turned the corner and saw it. It didn't try to scare me, but I know that when he walked through, he literally went, "What the fuck?" And then it scared him, and he went, "Oh!" You know, like he literally went like, "Oh, shit." Like I just remember I was laughing. I was turning around and I was laughing.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that's fun. That's his first one of those.
What the fuck? Oh, shit!
Oh, shit! I just remember hearing something like, what the fuck? What the shit is that? You know? And then it moved towards you, and then you went off, like, oh, fuck, or something like that. And that was really the only house that did that. There was a big Chucky in Chucky, but it didn't quite work the same way. They put these big masks on bungees, and they just
pull the bungee back and kind of move forward with it to propel these things forward. They did an effect version, like a special effect version of it in the Evil Dead house, which we did after this one, where they have the animatronic kind of lunge forward, but it's not the same as the bungee cord ones. The tension of having those ones pop out at you.
Yeah.
It really gets you if you're not expecting it. Any other feelings about the Monstros?
I did like the fact that I was kind of exploring aspects of a different culture.
The mythology.
Yeah, like it was very much up my alley in terms of like scratching that curiosity.
Oh, I'm into
itch.
it.
Yeah,
I'm into it
so
for sure.
It was in my top half for sure.
Yeah, it's in the top half for sure. After Monstros, we did Evil Dead because it was right next to it. Mm-hmm. Evil Dead took the spot of The Walking Dead, which was an actual year-round walkthrough that California had for, I think, 5 years before they closed it. Walking Dead went on for like 12 years. So California made like a house of it at Horror Nights for like 3 of those years. I think, minimally 3 of them. And they were always so popular that they said, let's just build one for a year-round attraction. And let's always have like 3 or 4 scare actors in here. Always. Just so people can walk through this. Mm-hmm. And we'll give it specific hours in the day to make sure that there were scare actors here. And that's fine because they've done scare actors in other rides before. It's pretty silly, actually, to think about. They used to put scare actors in the King Kong queue. They literally have boo holes in the King Kong queue in Islands of Adventure in Florida that I still get kind of PTSD walking by them because the special effects that they had for those Skull Island villagers was nightmarish at best. Evil Dead was cool to me because I thought the movie was okay. And I liked the movie, and I feel like they captured the detail very well. You use The Walking Dead's kind of blueprint, and you build like a house/hotel out of it. Instead of like the hospital and the jail and all that stuff. Good for you, because I couldn't fucking figure it out. I couldn't see. I kept asking myself like, how did they overlay this so well? And they just did. Mm-hmm. They just did. They gutted these rooms and they put new shit in them. That's just the truth.
That's hundreds of thousands of dollars for you.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars. But here's the thing. Here's a fun fact. This was supposed to be last year. For California, and last minute they pushed the movie back a year. It only came out like a couple months ago. So they didn't want to do what Exorcist did, which is put out a house without having seen the movie.
Yeah.
And sometimes that bet pays out, which I think it's going to do for Exorcist, but I do agree it was the right decision to make, because if this house had come out before the movie did, this house wouldn't have been very well received, because there's just some stuff in there that you don't understand what you're looking at if you haven't seen the movie.
Which is definitely where I was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I had asked you if you'd seen any of them, and you said no. Like, just flat out no. Yep. Like, haven't watched the TV show, haven't seen any of the movies. No. And I was like, okay. Let me know what you think of it. And then I just walked right in ahead of you.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I had seen the movie. I knew what I was getting into. And for the most part, I'd say this house did a very good job at the special effects on all of the actors. Deadites are really easy to get away with because they're just fucked up people. They're people with red contact lenses and high-pitched, screamy voices. And they just taunt you and yell at you and try to stab you with shit. And that's what makes Deadites cool, because they're
possessed people with Kandarian demons in their souls. So it's fun to see, like, I don't know. In the movie, I thought the mom was super hot. So to have, like, 4 of her kind of come at me, I was like, nice.
I was like, let's get this started.
Right.
Yeah.
So I will say there were a lot of cool scares in this house because we were about more than halfway done through the night. Only 2 houses remained after this one. And I found that the scares kind of increased as the night went on. Like, the crews just got better. The timing just got easier. We did wait longer for the latter houses in the night than we did at the beginning. But, but I think the scares were more worth it for the latter houses in the night. Evil Dead Rise was one of them because I remember entering a single room and 2 actors came out at the same time on my right and got me. Like, pinned me. And right a step after they got me, someone comes out behind me to my left in the direction I get scared into. And it just ping-ponged me across that room. I remember turning to you and being like, all 3 of those people just fucking got me. And you were like, yeah? Yeah? You just acknowledged it. You were like, yes, that did happen.
Yeah, I saw it with my eyes.
I saw that happen. And I was like, good, because that was fucking awesome. Any thoughts?
No. Obviously, going into it not knowing what was going on sort of brought a lot of it.
Would you see the movie now, having gone through it?
Probably not.
Yeah.
I also, it was overshadowed for me by the one after. Like, you know, that was my, came out of nowhere. So, like, I almost didn't give a shit, you know, about Evil Dead. Yeah. I kind of just, it was a thing I went through and went, cool. Yeah. You know.
You just
didn't dislike it.
You just say a bunch of evil possessed people just all screaming at each other.
They're just all screaming at each other.
Yeah.
We're all yelling.
Trying to kill you and shit.
We're all yelling. I fit right in.
Yeah.
Where am I? I'm at home.
No demons, just monstery people just yelling at you and threatening you and shit. Yeah, no, that's fine. You implied the next one we got to, which was Chucky.
It was Chucky. That was the one that...
You tell me your thoughts on Chucky first.
So I thought Chucky was going to be kind of right in the middle, and it definitely outshined that. I liked even, like, the because what was it called? Ultimate Kill
Ultimate Kill Count.
Yeah. And I made fun of it a little bit. I was like, oh, Ultimate Kill Count, here we go, we're playing COD, you know.
It is kind of funny that his Ultimate Kill Count is like 12.
Yeah, I was saying it ended at like 19.
Those are rookie numbers.
Yes.
Chucky.
So
Michael just killed like 30 people in his last movie alone. Like, come on.
But they showed you every kill.
No, that's fine. Because
you
did say, I think, when we got out of it, that was the goriest house of the night, and I will
absolutely
agree with that. There were like 2 or 3 people split in half.
Chainsawed down the middle, just lying there.
Stabbed with all sorts of things repeatedly.
Was that the one where the dude's legs were ripped off too, and they were just flailing?
That
was a different one.
That was the last house.
Okay, yeah.
That was when Hunchback was pulling that guy apart from his feet. You and I both stood there and watched it happen.
And we're like, wow.
I went, yeah. And you went, whoa. And we both just stood there and watched it happen. The people behind us were like, what the fuck? As we stood there, like, and backed up the conga line to watch this dude get his legs pulled off.
We are the problem.
We missed the next scare in the next room where Hunchback is supposed to, like, pour this cauldron of boiling water on you.
Oh.
And I was like, kind of sad to miss that, but I did get the guy getting his legs pulled off.
Yeah.
Anyway, but before we move on to that, I do want to talk about Chucky a little bit more.
This is the one that I'm going to go back. I'm going to watch the show now.
Yeah, no. I had told you when we were in line that WD Dewey and I were getting together to watch all the movies. I think if I like... Here's my thing. If I like the movies, I'll watch the TV show. See, I have a feeling I'm not going to.
You're not going to like the movies.
Which means I'm not going to. I told I told Where Am I in line that I had seen maybe 2 of the Chucky movies. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean, like, the core Chucky movies. I mean the original Child's Play, the original in the 80s, mm-hmm. and then the new one with Mark Hamill. So, I've seen clips and scenes and maybe caught cable of, like, 2 other ones.
Sure.
And then lost interest because I caught them, like, in the middle, and I wasn't involved at all with it. So, like, I have a very rudimentary understanding of Chucky. Mm-hmm. And in my opinion, I think something like Slappy from fucking Goosebumps or fucking Billy from Dead Silence or fucking the single episode with the talking ventriloquist dummy from fucking Twilight Zone are all scarier than Chucky is. I don't think Chucky is very scary. I really don't.
Yeah. Is it because he's a ginger?
I really don't. No, it's because he's a little fucking Cabbage Patch doll. Yeah. Like, I literally laugh.
That freaks me out, though.
I literally laugh thinking of one of them trying to come at me with a knife. I know, but then I would literally just kick him. I would literally just kick him.
Yeah, but then there'd be a knife in your leg.
Maybe. If he can stand not getting kicked. Yeah. I trust my ability to kick something that's a foot tall more than I trust myself to not get stabbed. I really do. Follow me right now. I think you'll get
a couple good hits on it. Here's the problem.
Let me lay it out first. We are standing in a hotel. We are in a hotel room.
Yeah.
Right next to a little kitchen.
Uh-huh.
If a little 1 foot tall guy just came out of the bottom cupboard right now with a fucking knife, and I had 10 feet between me and him to react, I am getting up and I am fucking kicking him.
Yeah.
And the minute he hits that wall, he's going to drop that knife. I'm going to pick him up. I'm going to take him outside, and I'm going to throw him off the balcony.
But he's ready for that.
Like getting rid of like a small animal that doesn't want to be near you.
Like, yeah, when's the last time you did that? That shit's hard. I had to pull.
I used to have to wrangle a possum out of my garage because I would eat my cat's food like all the time, and I would literally just pick it up by the tail and walk it down the street and leave it there. Like, I'd be like, I know you don't have rabies. I know you're just hungry, but shut the fuck up. And I would pick it up and walk it down the street.
I recently had to get a bird out of a bird trap.
See, birds are different because they'll scratch your eyes out.
Well, so will fucking Chucky.
No, he won't. He has little plastic hands, and I would be like, oh, you pinched me, and I would throw him across the room. I'm not joking.
Yeah.
There's like a scene in the original Child's Play in the 80s where he is screaming.
Well, in the original one, he's fighting a 5-year-old.
Where he is screaming on top of the blonde mother babysitter character. I forget what her motherly figure status is. That's why I'm rewatching them, people, because I don't remember. He flings himself from like 5 feet away onto this woman, and there's this really great clip of the special effects Chucky like screaming in her face. And I can't help but think that's because you are an 80-pound, 20-something-year-old woman.
Yeah.
And not a 300-pound, 30-something-year-old guy who could literally pick up a baseball bat and just swing at you once and your head pops off. You know? Like, there's something innately funny about Chucky to me because I don't find him fucking scary. And I know a lot of people don't find him fucking scary. I know that's not really the point of Chucky anymore. Mm-hmm. It's very much a satire, what is he going to do now, kind of wink, wink, nod, nod, tongue-in-cheek, nudge, nudge. You know?
Can't die, what's next? That's kind of the whole...
They serialized him in a way that I don't think neuters him because the kills were gnarly, but just kind of... It just kind of pushes the envelope for how extreme the kill is going to be. Like,
there's not going to be a lot of them, but they're going to be really, really gruesome.
What can this stupid little doll get away with now?
Yeah.
Like, there's one from, like, the new movie where, like, a dude steps into a puddle and then he drops, like, an electrical wire in the puddle, you know. and then it electrocutes the guy. Right. That was in the house. And it's like, oh, he's getting up to hijinks now. Now, the most interesting thing, and I will say this is probably an aspect of the TV show because I've seen clips from the show, was the end for me, because you enter like a forest scene where there are like 6 Chuckies coming at you at once. And I think the TV show is about the Charles Lee Ray Chucky, like, indoctrinating other Chucky dolls, and it spreads like a virus to the point where there are a bunch of them conspiring to kill, like, people together. Mm-hmm. And that's interesting to me, because that forest scene where, like, 7 of them come running at you at once kind of did look scary. Now, that's where I will say you got the Critters/Gremlins effect in-house, where you are now worrying about many of them coming at you at once and not just the one. Because if I swing and kick one of them, which I would do to a gremlin, you know, the same argument for a gremlin. If a gremlin, fucking little green dude, spiky with big snappy sharp claws, sharp teeth, came running at me right now, I'd be a little bit more scared to kick it because it has like scales and nails and teeth and shit. But I'm still gonna try and punt it. Mm-hmm. Like, no lie. I'm still going to try to do the same thing because it's the same size as Chucky, right? But the problem with a gremlin is they're like an infestation. Like, if there's one, there's more. So, like, if I kick one, there's going to be, like, 2 more on my back in, like, a second. And that's the hesitation. That's the fear right there, right? Chucky had some cool kills.
Yeah.
There were sliced people in half. They were like live actors like being killed, which was funny. They'd come out of like a doorway with like Chucky on their back, and they'd just be screaming as like their throat gets cut or some shit.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Throwing blood around.
I will say the most interesting thing about the house is just the sheer amount of animatronic Chuckies they had. Mm-hmm. There had a lot. I think the director of Horror Nights, John Murdy, I think he said there were something like 27 animatronics being cycled for the house throughout the evening. And I'm like, I don't know if that's how many were in the house in general, or like how many they have in-house that they that they kind of replace ones with as the evening goes on. There were certainly many of them, to the point where I said, wow, they really can go back and do some other older houses better now, because we know that multiple animatronics isn't a problem. And the media, I mean, with that is like, I really would love to see a Dead Silence house revisited with a bunch of little ventriloquist dummies. But now that I'm on the topic, a Gremlins house would be fucking sick. Yeah. I know a lot of people in the chat, in the community forums for Horror Nights, talk about Gremlins all the time. That would be a fucking great house. If fucking Ghostbusters can get a fucking a fucking house, then Gremlins can get a house. You can't deny that argument. But that being said, the little animatronics were cool. Mm-hmm. That was the one thing I really appreciated about the house, is that almost every section of it had like a little Chucky running or jumping or holding something and swinging it, like, and talking too. Some of them just had full dialogue where they'd point something at you and say something. Yeah. Any other thoughts, Chucky?
No.
And then the last house, which was Unmasked, Universal Monsters, featuring more prominently the Phantom of the Opera, followed by Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, followed by Hunchback, followed by brief singular appearance of Invisible Man, which confused me because I already know that in Florida it's a lot more of a 4-way split, with Phantom kind of leading the pack, where in this one it was Phantom and Jekyll kind of leading the pack, and Hunchback showed up a couple times, and Invisible Man was literally there once.
Yeah, just...
And I was like, why?
Well,
he was the one I was most excited to see.
Is that Invisible Man was actually in every single room.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
He was in all of them.
You're going off of the earlier in the night we had gone and did like the backlot for Blumhouse tour, where they have like the actual props from Megan and Black Phone and Five Nights at Freddy's there. I got to see all the animatronics for Five Nights at Freddy's. It was really cool. One of the glass boxes holding a costume literally said Invisible Man 2020, the Elizabeth Moss one. And I was like, oh, they got the real costume for Invisible Man. It's just an empty fucking box.
Yeah.
It's literally, it's a fantastic joke. It's a fantastic joke. If I had just entered a black hallway and heard him say like, oh, I'm going to fucking kill you now, I'd be like, oh shit, where is he?
Yeah.
You know?
I think it had, obviously we talked about the leg pulling thing.
Yeah.
It had kind of this connected but not connected with the storyline where, like, there was getting into the first Jekyll and Hyde room, I didn't realize until, like, after we were through the room, I was like, oh, that was the start of the next one. And then I was like, oh, well, it's too late for me to figure out, you know, what I just fucking missed because I thought I was Phantom of the Opera.
And that's another situation where you're missing the context with how a California house is built.
How many details to look at.
Yeah, with a California Horror Nights house, you have a lot of singular rooms with black hallways. So there wasn't really a narrative to follow. It was just kind of like we were in the sewers, and then we were in some dude's house, and then we were in an alleyway, and then we were in a cabaret for the evil, and then it ends. Whereas the one in Florida, I already know for a fact, is just kind of like you traipsing around the city with like cool alleyways and shit. And then you go down into the sewers, I think, for the end of the house. So it's very linear. It's very easier to it's just easier to understand as you walk through it. And this one, it was just like, who the fuck is gonna pop out at any corner? Because we haven't realized, like you said, that we've transitioned between rooms. There was also this weird French woman carrying rats. I don't know where she fits into the equation at all.
She wasn't actually part of the ride. That was just a woman.
That was just a woman who wandered into the house.
She was like, I belong here now.
The funny thing is, when we were waiting in line, I'd look up at the projectors on the building to the left of us, and she had like an entire scene, but they didn't. Like, projected onto the side of the building is just this woman holding rats fucking screaming. And I'm like, what house is that for?
Yeah.
And then I walk into Unmasked, and it's one of the first scares you get. It's like, you're about to go into the catacombs. And I'm like, I wonder what's down there. And the first fucking room I turn through, there's a woman standing there with a bunch of rats. And I went, oh. I pointed at them when she held them out, and I said, oh, are they dead? Having owned rats made me kind of sad. Yeah. And then she cackled, and I said, this isn't fun anymore, and I walked away from her. Any other thoughts about this house? I think Jekyll came at me like 6 times.
Yeah.
Jekyll and Hyde were the scariest in this house.
I missed a lot of Jekyll then.
I think you got the good Phantom scares though.
I did, yes.
He didn't. He got me maybe once, but I know he got you 3 or 4 times. Yeah. In different costumes too, because they they brought his Red Death costume in too, and that one got you, but I didn't get that one.
But that's also why I wasn't fully aware that we were changing
scenes. Yeah,
you know, because we were just he's in a different costume. He's in a different costume.
But we were also just walking out of a Hunchback scene, so who thought Phantom would come back in the next hallway? Like, it's convoluted. Jekyll got me like 4 fucking times. There was another one of those hallways near the end where it's just like they have the opportunity, if they wanted to hit you with Jekyll 8 times. So I would get like 1, 2. No 3 or 4, and then like 5, and then be out of the house.
You know? I don't know how many of those you got at the end, but I got like 3 fucking Jekyll and Hydes at the end. Just Hyde. It's this big animalistic looking human with like green goop coming out of his mouth, and it hit me like 3 fucking times right at the end. That's all the houses though. So I mean, if you
want to run through a list,
if you were to go 1, 2, 3, what's your 1, 2, 3?
So 1, 2, 3, is probably.
I love that both of ours are going to be very different.
Tram, Latin America, Stranger Things.
We'll take Tram out of it, because Tram's a different experience.
Then it would be Latin America, Stranger Things, Chucky.
That's cool. I mean, I get that.
Yeah.
For me, I'd probably say Last of Us, Exorcist, Latin America.
Okay.
And it's not to say that Stranger Things or Chucky were bad. They weren't.
Yeah.
I just think
they were just something different.
I had better experiences walking through the houses I mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
I also think I was leading for each of the houses I mentioned.
I think I led for Latin America.
No, I was.
Okay.
I was. Because you just remember, like, I was just the one constantly reacting to the monsters.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe near the end I said you go in front of me, but
yeah, or we switched.
But there were like for the stilt walker guy, I was the one talking to him. For the bird woman in the beginning, I was pointing at her. You know, when she was screaming, holding the kids' parts, I was to the right, you were to the left behind me, and I was like, oh fuck, you know, I just remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember turning around and seeing the fucking big version fucking jump at you. Yeah. No. So I was definitely in front for Last of Us. I was in front for that, and what was the other one I picked? Exorcist.
Mm-hmm.
You were definitely in front for that. For Exorcist too. So I think I just appreciate kind of getting that first into the room, because I also, like you, kind of spaced myself out and let the people in front of me get away from me so that I could have a fresh experience going through the rooms.
Yeah. It gives the actors
and that's a cool thing about California.
Ability to act.
In California, they don't wave you on as aggressively as Florida does. Florida definitely has a conga line problem where you'll just be in a room with 6 people. You just will. And we were able to walk fresh into empty rooms like a lot.
Yeah.
That night. And I'm not even saying that's because of Express. I'm just saying, like,
that was just
the people in there are not. They did not come and chase us and get us to walk through the house faster. Like that has happened in Florida before. Like I've been looking at something and someone like literally walks over with a wand and like asks me to move faster. And I'm like, no, I paid for this experience. I'm going to fucking go at whatever pace I want. I'm not going to stand here in the room and back it up for 15 minutes, but I'm going to look at things as I walk by. Do not wave me on. Let me get scared. Let people jump out at me. Let me experience this. And then I will leave the room.
Yeah.
No one was doing that in California. Which I thought was wonderful. That was superb.
You just kind of had your thing.
Can I tell you about the things you will have missed in Florida this year?
Sure.
So, this year in California, they did a 5-3 split of IP to originals. Because the originals this year were holidays. Yeah, holidays, Latin America, and technically Universal Monsters, because it's not based off of media, it's based off of like stories. But also the Terror Tram is its own original concept. The same IPs except for Evil Dead. Evil Dead is not going to be at Florida. The things you're not going to see this year in Orlando. There's Last of Us, there's Chucky, there's Stranger Things, there's Universal Monsters Unmasked. Those 4
Exorcist, those 5.
Sure.
Are going to be 5 of the 10 houses in Florida this year. None of the other original concepts are carrying over. In fact, usually they inform one another. There's a house that happened last year that was big radioactive bugs.
Okay.
That's where exterminators came from. That was a house that was last year that transferred over the coast.
Yeah.
Last year in California...
Send all the masks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last year in California, there was a La Llorona house, which is where a lot of the same Spanish stuff came from this year. The 5 original houses in Florida this year are a cryptid Sasquatch Yeti house, where you're literally walking through a campground as tourists, campers, kids, families get pulled away and chewed apart by giant animalistic Yetis.
Perfect.
It looks great.
Yeah.
Imagine, like, hides. Just a bunch of hides.
All over the place.
Jumping out and grabbing people. It's funny. They have a cult house where everyone's in weird cloaks and shit.
Sure.
And the entire thing is color gel lit red because it's about a blood moon sacrifice.
Okay.
There's like a Wicker Man segment in the end where there's like a giant like human body made out of wood like on fire and shit. Yeah. Really wild looking. And apparently all the scare actors are like trying to convince you to join them and shit or sacrifice you or some shit. So it's very obscure. Here's a cool one. There's a medieval fantasy one based off of the prior ride at Islands of Adventure, Dueling Dragons, which was the Islands of Adventure roller coaster before it became Harry Potter Triwizard Tournament, which then got busted and turned into Hagrid's motorbike.
Yeah.
The plot of that old ride was Merlin knows that when he dies and his spell book is left over, people are going to fight over it. So he leaves like a spell over it saying that like only a true champion will come forth and be able to control it. And that's where the ride comes in. You like choose which dragon form to possess to claim ownership. Try
and create,
And apparently the house in Florida this year, much like the coaster, lets you choose which side to end the house. So you either go ice or fire.
Yeah.
And there is an actual scene when you get to the middle of it, middle near the end, where there's a giant castle and legitimately 2 dragons in the room, like breathing fucking giant fog machines, kind of like the effect in the Harry Potter ride.
Yeah.
Very excited for that house. Very D&D-esque. What other ones? Cult. Sasquatch.
Fire Ice.
Dueling Dragons. Dr. Oddfellows. Which is a carnival. Plot related to previous clown IP character Jack, who's just an original Horror Nights clown guy that walks around and tries to scare people. Not much plot there.
Yeah.
Lots of in-universe IP related shit. But it's a carnival, so there's clowns and freak shows and people.
You can take the clown thing in
luring you into the circus tent. The bearded woman hops out and laughs at you, and then a clown in the next alleyway bops out of a fucking curtain and tries to scare you, and then honks a horn and laughs. You know, legitimately. I'm being serious. Like, and then the last one. Okay, the last one. Devil Went Down to Georgia.
Oh, that sounds cool.
Old school.
Yeah.
You're watching a musician sign his soul away, and then he becomes like this jazz trumpet legend. But then near the end of the house, like as you go through the house, you're seeing that this demon that granted him his power is also watching him and like puppeteer controlling him as the house goes on.
Yeah.
And at the end, he claims your soul. And he like turns into full demon and drags you down to hell, and the end of the house is like hell.
Okay.
Conceptually really cool. I've only seen like one good recording of it though. Every other recording I've seen sucked. Some people say it's their best house of the night. Some people say it's their worst, and that's fucking cool to me. Because I'm going in mid-October with Alley Cat, so I'm thinking by the time I get there, all the houses are going to be well balanced.
Staffed, yeah.
The sad thing about Where Am I and me coming in September means that it's the first fucking... It's actually the second week that this one's been open. They had only started on like the 7th and we went on like the 15th. So it's or something like that, like the 9th and we came on the 17th or something. Regardless, the scare actors kind of get into a groove as the event goes on because they're working the same house, the same positions, and even if they're not, they're just learning.
Yeah, they figure out
as the event goes on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you just get more into it as the spooky season comes. You just get more. You're getting closer to Halloween. You're thinking, let's really fucking bring the heat. I think California tries to scare you more pop out wise.
Sure.
I don't think Florida is big on the
get in your face.
The get in your face stuff.
Yeah.
They really aren't. Which is why, it might be okay for people to start with Florida. It's definitely less aggressive in that regard. It's just, there's a lot more in Florida. So, like, you're kind of getting hit with a lot, which is, like, the downside for someone who's never done it before. The sizing of things in California is good. The way they're executed is a little aggressive, though. Because I've never had any of those scare actors get in my face that much in any other year that I've been there. This was the first year where, like, people were legit in my face. I've seen it happen other years. I've talked about it other years happening, like, right in front of me, but this is the first year where it's, like, noticeably happened to me.
Yeah.
So I know that's going to be different in Florida. So when Alley Cat and I talk about it, I'm definitely going to revisit that plot point. Questions for Where Am I? Would you go again?
Absolutely. In a heartbeat.
Now having experienced it, does the IP matter? Do you have to have a vague interest in what's going on to be more into
so,
it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do think so.
So next year, if the lineup was like Hellraiser,
I would do like a marathon,
fucking Scooby-Doo,
a week before of all the movies. Absolutely.
Okay. The only thing. Well, that's not true. It's not the only thing. I think they were testing their waters a little bit this year. And by that I mean, I think we might get a Megan house next year.
Yeah.
And I
just
think,
based off all the previews.
Just based off of, like, how much they want to show it. And I also think we're going to get a Five Nights at Freddy's house next year. I think Blumhouse has, if not a 50-50 house, where you get Megan in the beginning and Five Nights at the end. They've done that at other years. Last year there was a Black Phone and Freaky house that was a 50-50 split. They could do that with Megan and Five Nights at Freddy's. They could give them both separate entire houses. I'd be down for it. I'm okay with it. I've seen the Megan movie. I think it's fine. I think what they did with her at Horror Nights in California was awesome. She was in the Blumhouse thing. There were like 6 of her dancing around. It was crazy. It was
they did a great job.
It was cool. I know there's like a roaming horde of them that just walk around different places, different sections in Florida, and they do that entire dance like outside in different sections as the night goes on. And it's not scheduled.
Yeah,
they do one of those pop-up dances and then they fuck off.
Better get lucky.
Yeah, I'm hoping that I can see it. But I wouldn't be dead if I didn't. But here's the thing. I fucking love Five Nights at Freddy's. I want them to get a house.
Yeah.
I want this movie to be successful.
Oh yeah.
Because
it should be.
Matt Lillard said it should be, because this is a
multi-billion-dollar game franchise. Matt Lillard already leaked he's playing Purple Guy in the movie. For those who know the games, he's the main bad guy of the series. And Matt Lillard is, of course, Shaggy from the Scooby-Doo live-action movies and Stu from the first Scream. Seeing him play a bad guy again is really cool to me, let alone one who pretends to wear an animatronic suit and stab people and kill children. That just sounds awesome to me. And then I like the guy from the kid from Hunger Games and Zathura, that Josh Hutcherson, fucking future man. I like him too. Mm-hmm. So for both of them to be going up against each other in a kind of video game adaptation produced by Blumhouse, I don't know how you don't get a horror house next year. Mm-hmm. Five Nights at Freddy's. Like, we had Last of Us. We had a video game adaptation this year.
Yeah, exactly.
Resident Evil has been a house. Mm-hmm. Silent Hill has been a house. There are rumors that BioShock was going to have a house, but I think that's going to be pushed now that Netflix owns the rights to do BioShock adaptation. I don't know if it's going to be a show or a movie. I don't care. Yeah. They just need to do it. We need it. We need Rapture in our lives. If Netflix is doing BioShock and Blumhouse is doing Five Nights at Freddy's, then they are going to be Horror Nights houses. Yeah. They are going to be. Because I know Horror Nights already wants to do those properties. Having the animatronics in California, in the Blumhouse exhibit, was them saying, look at me.
Yeah.
And,
keep your eyes open.
And they are gauging that experience based on the people who were there for the Megan stuff and the people who were there for the Five Nights at Freddy's stuff. And that excites me. That excites me for next year for sure, because every year I follow the spec threads where people are like, what big thing is coming this year? And I would say as early as like fucking May, I knew Stranger Things and Last of Us were coming to this event. And Chucky was announced last year. Mm-hmm. It was a surprise on Halloween in October of 2022.
22, yeah. That they were going
Chucky did a preview saying, guess who's coming next year, fuckers? Because he had a pop-up that year. In both coasts, in Florida and in California, he had a little animatronic puppet that would talk to the audience members whoever wanted to walk by. So yeah, I think when they introduce a small concept, it becomes a big concept at some point. You show me Megan actors walking around scaring people and people paying attention to it, that tells them that if we made a house, people would come for it. And then you put up the special effects for a movie that's coming out, you have people come and look at it, you gauge their attendance levels, you build a house off of it. Movie does well or not, we've gotten Purge houses 7 fucking times. I've never been through any of them. I just know that they've existed. There have been like 5 Purge houses. If they can do Purge fucking 5 times, 5 different years at Horror Nights, we can get a Five Nights at Freddy's house from Blumhouse.
Okay, well, I'm ready to go to the East Coast.
Yep.
I'm ready.
10 houses in Florida. 3 big scare zones that actually have their own like funding put into how they look and how they feel and how you walk through them. No, 4 of them. 4 scare zones? Hollywood, down. Yeah, 4 big ones. They say that there's a 5th one at gate entry. It doesn't exist. It's kind of like a California scare zone where there's just like people in a crowd. Scare zones in Orlando are, I'm gonna take the budget of a house and just put it into an entire walkway, kind of like the Death Eaters hallway.
Yeah.
In the Central Park area, they made a jungle this year, full of like monsters. In the Hollywood Ave section, they did the Zodiac in different creepy ways, different like alien celestial forms of the Zodiac. In the San Francisco area, they did a cargo shipment carrying monsters that just like crashed, and so all the monsters are just running around everywhere. It's pretty funny. And then in the New York section in front of Mummy, they did something called Vamp 69, which is apparently a Woodstock area.
Okay.
Playing like Jimi Hendrix and Beatles and all this other shit.
Vamp like vampire.
Getting infested by vampires, though.
Okay.
So there's vampires like going around like sucking hippies and stuff.
Yeah.
And also being hippie vampires, that too.
Yeah.
I already saw someone dressed as Jimi Hendrix, like, with sharp teeth walking around, and I started laughing.
I am absolutely in the hippie category.
The other cool thing about Florida is they do a store that has, like, actual theming put into it. Mm. And this year it's comic books to make it look like Creepshow.
Nice.
And they have, like, 4 rooms, 4 different comics. One of them is, like, a black and white noir where they actually project things on all the walls and the floors and stuff to make it look like people are walking by the hallways and, like, there's rain pedaling the concrete, like, comic book style. It's just really cool looking. Florida puts a little bit more work into it than California does. Yeah. But they both have different things to offer, and that's why I think this first year where I get to see both coasts, it's going to be really cool to see what each coast has to offer. I know I'm going to like Florida more just because it's the one I'm used to more of, but California was a special year this year. Getting to do Last of Us multiple times, getting to do Chucky and Exorcist and Stranger Things multiple times this year is just like a delight because they were both just great. Mm-hmm. All of them were just great. Any other finishing thoughts? Where am I?
I'm ready for bed.
I know you are.
You can see it on
my
face.
We're recording this super late. It's probably like 3 a.m. our time back at home. But
it is.
But we're also going to be getting up in like
5 hours.
8 hours.
Well, one of us will be up in 8 hours, and one of us will be up in 5. Because guess 5. What?
Because your body's going to think it's 8, and it's going to be 5.
Yeah. Anyway. I'm up at like 6:30 every day anyway.
You are.
So.
We have a long flight home, but I wanted to do this beforehand, before we left California, to get it in while it's fresh, like a fresh oven pizza or some fresh pasta. We had some fresh pasta this week.
We did.
We had some meatball. We had some spaghetti. With some ragu. With some fettuccine. Frightful fettuccine. Mm-hmm. I had some chicken parm and big meatball.
Big meatball challenge.
I don't know if I'm going to talk about Nintendo at all because I'd be here for another 2 hours. But we did dress up as Mario and Luigi.
Yes, much fun.
And go to Super Mario World, and many people wanted to take pictures with us, and it was really funny. I was Mario, he was Luigi. If you know us, if you picture us, you'd understand why. He was fully committed with a mustache. I couldn't do it. I'm a pussy. It's okay. I'm fine saying it. I'm a pussy. I can't do a mustache. I can't pull it off.
Hey man, I used to think that too.
He looks like Ted Lasso. He rocks it. I can't do it. My face is too round. You got an ovular face.
My face is fat as shit.
You have an oval face, though.
Yeah.
I have a circle face. I have a very round face. Mustache don't look good on round face. We did the Mario, we did the Bowser, we did the Mario Kart, we did all that stuff. It was very fun. Universal was very fun in California. We did Disneyland when we were here, too. Because naturally we're going to hit everything.
Yeah, of
but
course.
The fucking website didn't give me tickets to the Halloween party this year because Disneyland's fucking website sucks ass. And so we weren't able to go to that, but I heard it was really cool, and I'm pretty fucking pissed off about it. I'm not going to dwell. This has been a really cool trip.
It has been.
This was a cool way to kind of cap it. I hope people had fun just listening to us conceptually talk about houses and what scared us, and I hope people find this interesting. If this is interesting enough for people, maybe I'll do it every year based off of every house I go to.
Yeah.
But I know I didn't do the last 2 years. I know the last year I did do this was 2019, so forgive me. Alley Cat and I will be talking about the last 2 years when we get together and do that. So we'll be talking about all of 21 and all of 2022 when we talk about 2023 with her as well after that trip. So she'll be back, and this dialogue will be back, and we'll talk more about it in the future. But I hope people enjoyed this. This has been Lotsa Pasta with Captain Death.
Where am I?
And where am I? From California.
I'm in California.
West Coast.
Get me home.
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Is that where we're at?
No.